The 13th edition of the Goa Arts and Literary Festival is about to start in just a little while, and we are here at the ICG Ground Zero, which has been the home to the GALF for all of its editions. The 13th of February might just be lucky for some, because in the lineup today there is a smorgasbord on offer. Today's keynote speakers are going to be Shumana Roy, novelist, poet and writer of much that is non-fiction but also a lover of plants. Shanta Gokhale, an eminent literature. The great William Dalrymple, whose every book has been awarded in some way, who now has his new book out, and he's going to be in conversation with Vidya Dahejia. Artist Sonia Rodriguez Sabarwal has been asked this year to prepare the GALF artwork, a mascot, a piece of art that is central to the festival every year. Also on offer will be Ramesh Ghadi, who is a local son of the soil poet and who is going to recite his poetry. So it's going to be a fantastic lineup for anybody that's here. And already there are people who have been GALF regulars over the years. In the course of the evening, we will be speaking to some others of them, but we go on now to bring you the evening's proceedings.
Friends, the last time I looked out on this very scene at the 2024 GALF inaugural, there was Tarun Bhartia smiling in the back row. And he kept on smiling all the way through the next 3 days. We lost Tarun suddenly, a short while ago, gone far too young. And the loss is immense. Tarun was an extraordinary filmmaker and also one of the greatest photographers of our time. His oeuvre is comparable to the masters of the genre, Sunil Jana from India, but also the likes of Sebastião Salgado. But that is not all, because he also created and curated the brilliant, highly inspirational Riot online magazine, an invaluable intellectual and artistic and most essential platform for the independent world view of all those who live in and around his home state of Meghalaya. It is interesting that when Tarun arrived in Goa last year, that smile I was talking about never left his face for 3 days. And at the end, he told a television interviewer that it felt to him like he had left his family in Shillong only to come home again in Panjim. He felt kindred instantly, with a sense of belonging that goes far apart beyond the obvious. He recognized this place where he had never been before, and of course, we recognized him too. How can that be? Is that connection real? Friends, for Tarun and for me, and for you too, hopefully, what I am talking about is extremely real and significant and makes a big difference in our day-to-day lives. And to understand that unusual truth, that seemingly contradictory truth, I'd like to take us back to 2010. Friends, those 15 years since GALF was founded seem to have flown by on supersonic wings. And certainly our dear Bhai has remained evergreen, absolutely evergreen. But in fact, we live in a very different world from back then. At that time, two separate entities came together to pursue this idea. On the one hand, the former director of this institution, Nandini Sahai, had attended Jaipur. So thank you for that, Mr. Dalrymple, wherever you are. But our Bhai, Damodar Maozo, had already been developing his own idea for a festival to incorporate the arts in the name of the great Goan exemplars, the poet Bakibab Borkar, and his very dear friend Angelo da Fonseca. With that vision backed by the Goa Writers Group in partnership, a robust partnership with ICG, this event was founded on the logic that has evolved from very long experience of the writers and artists of Goa.
Nothing is out of syllabus for distinguished poet, writer and academic Shumana Roy. She spoke about the language of plants and how the quest for a plant script began in India.
My interest in plant life, in photographing walls of northern Bengal over decades, writers and artists from a minority tradition, probably comes from there. What I'm going to share with you over the next few minutes is something I've noticed from my research and interest on the relationship between humans and plant life. Over the last 100 years and a little more, scientists, artists, musicians, writers, filmmakers have, through their various media, been trying to find out the language of plants. The word language is not accidental, it's one they keep using. Let me put it rather bluntly. We, as a species, have been engaging in a quest to discover the plant script. It is this that I want to share with you today. There are quite a few reasons behind my decision to do so. The first is this, and I want you to think about this. What does it say about us at this point in human history if we are all thinking so seriously, or perhaps not even so seriously, about the plant script? The second is this. The quest for the plant script began in India. It is this story that I want to share with you. 2 months before the start of the First World War, Jagadish Chandra Bose was giving a talk about plant autographs and their revelations to the Royal Institution of Great Britain. He begins his talk with he uses this word, science of handwriting. Bose recognizes the unreliability of such a science. He's a scientist after all, but still chooses it to explain plant behavior. And I quote, so when I'm quoting, I'm actually translating Bose from Bangla into English. Under a placid exterior, there is also a hidden history in the life of the plant. Storm and sunshine, warmth of summer and frost of winter, drought and rain, all these and many more come and go about the plant. What coercion do they exercise upon it? What subtle impress do they leave behind? Is it possible to make the plants write down their own autographs and thus reveal their hidden history?
Shanta Gokhale. Her wit, her words and her wisdom were on full display during her keynote address. Amidst the jostling beliefs, I shout, therefore I am, is her postulation that what we may need is to listen to the great silence.
Create whatever we write out of our immediate circumstances. And mine in the last 2 years have been particularly painful. 3 buildings in front of my house have been demolished. 3 buildings behind my house have been demolished, more or less at the same time. The human noises that this has produced were staccato, bang, interval, bang, interval, bang, interval. And at the end of the day, one had a headache. And also the unfortunate question, why am I trying to write, for God's sake? Demolition over, construction begins. And then we have machine sounds. And it isn't enough of a diversion for me to find words for the sounds that I hear. Thud, crash, wheeze, screech, whine, grate. All these sounds were being made all around me, setting my teeth on edge and really producing in me something that I think isn't part of me at all. A great urge to do violence. But then what did I do? I didn't go and throw the earth mover over into the sea. What I did was, of course, close my eyes, sit still, and try and absorb the noise. Meanwhile, telling myself that Mahatma Gandhi, with all his moral power, was still powerless against post-industrial noise. He lamented, before modern civilization came upon us, at least 6 to 8 hours of silence out of 24 were vouchsafed to us. Modern civilization has taught us to convert night into day and golden silence into brazen din and noise. What a great thing it would be if we, in our busy lives, could retire into ourselves each day.
What is an arts festival without some centerpiece art? Respected artist Sonia Rodriguez Sabharwal unveiled her creation for the 13th Goa Arts and Literature Festival.
The unveiling of the artwork for the Goa Arts and Literature Festival 2025, the 13th edition of 15-year-old festival, and the 13th artwork. Whoa! A big hand for the artist and the artist. Yeah.
Farmer, fitness instructor, poet are all hats that Ramesh Ghadi wears with aplomb. He gave us a real treat by reciting his poetry in Konkani.
म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. मागीर तुमी ती निर्जीव म्हजी तकली पूर्वेक करात वा पश्चिमेक, मागीर तुमी ती निर्जीव म्हजी तकली पूर्वेक करात वा पश्चिमेक, उत्तरेक करात वा दक्षिणेक, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. ती घशीन काळी जाल्ली दिवली, ती घशीन काळी जाल्ली दिवली म्हज्या पांया कडेन पेटयात वा तकले कडेन, बुजा कडेन नाल्यार दाव्या डोक्या कडेन, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. उक्त्या म्हज्या तोंडांत तुमी, उक्त्या म्हज्या तोंडांत तुमी मागीर साकर घालात वा गोड, उक्त्या म्हज्या तोंडांत तुमी मागीर साकर घालात वा गोड, आनी कपलाक म्हाज्या काळो बुको लायात, कपलाक म्हाज्या काळो बुको लायात, नाजाल्यार रंगयात म्हजें सोण तांबड्या भडक शेंदुरांत, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. कण्याचे निसणीक म्हजे, कण्याचे निसणीक म्हजे कोणी मारचो खान, कण्याचे निसणीक म्हजे कोणी मारचो खान, सरणांक म्हज्या उजो पेटोवंक पयलो कोणाचो मान, सरणांक म्हज्या उजो पेटोवंक पयलो कोणाचो मान. अरे नाका हो तमाशा फुकटो, अरे नाका हो तमाशा फुकटो, तुमी कोणूय पेटयात धोकटो, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. तोंडा वयल्यान मारीत बोबो म्हजो शिवडो कोण गा फोडटलो, तोंडा वयल्यान मारीत बोबो म्हजो शिवडो कोण गा फोडटलो, तांबयान भरून तीर्थार व्हरून म्हज्यो अस्थी कोण गा सोडटलो. अरे ती म्हज्या म्हाताऱ्या हाडांची पूड, ती म्हज्या म्हाताऱ्या हाडांची पूड तुमी गंगे सोडात वा सोडात व्हरून घरा फाटल्या हागुड्ड्या व्हाळात, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. रांदचे कुडीक म्हज्या बाराव्याक, रांदचे कुडीक म्हज्या बाराव्याक जेवण कसलें शिजतलें, रांदचे कुडीक म्हज्या बाराव्याक जेवण कसलें शिजतलें. पोरण्यो म्हज्यो यादी काडून शेले कितले भिजतले, पोरण्यो म्हज्यो यादी काडून शेले कितले भिजतले. सुतीक सोंपलें म्हणून दायजी खोशयेन वचून न्हिदतले न्हिदों राणीचे, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना, म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. केळी खोल्यार पिंड ठेवून कावळ्याक कोण जापयतलो, केळी खोल्यार पिंड ठेवून कावळ्याक कोण जापयतलो. यो रे कावळ्या खा रे पिंड, काकूळ तायेन आपयतलो. मागीर तो लेवटी मुड्यो कावळो, तो मागीर लेवटो मुडी कावळो चांचयत पिंड खातलो काय पयस खंय तरी उडून वतलो. वचूं बाबडो म्हाका कांयच फरक पडचो ना. अरे कुडींतलें आटोवन रगत, कुडींतलें आटोवन रगत तुमकां आमी करता व्हड. कुडींतलें आटोवन रगत तुमकां आमी करता व्हड. आनी जाणटेपणी आमचेंच वजें, जाणटेपणी आमचेंच वजें तुमकां लागूंक लागता जड. जाणटेपणी आमचेंच वजें तुमकां लागूंक लागता जड. भाटां बेसां इस्टेटीर, भाटां बेसां इस्टेटीर फक्त आसता तुमची नदर. सांगात कशें लाभलें यश तुमकां आवय बापाय बगर. सांगात कशें लाभलें यश तुमकां आवय बापाय बगर. आयक, मेल्या उपरांत नाका विधी, मेल्या उपरांत नाका विधी, नाका म्हाळ, नाका श्राद्धां, नाका तुजें पिंडदान, नाका तुजें पिंडदान. जाताच जाल्यार जाणटेपणार दियात आदाराचो खान, दियात आदाराचो खान, दियात आदाराचो खान, दियात आदाराचो खान.
Everything that William Dalrymple touches turns to gold. The man with the literary Midas touch has a new book out, taking us on a journey from Brahmagupta in Patliputra via Fibonacci in Algeria to Leonardo da Vinci in Italy. He reveals how the number system that the world uses today was in fact birthed in India. The perfect foil to his flamboyance is the sharp observation, keen erudition and mighty historical and artistic intellect of Vidya Dahejiya.
His book, he explains, tells the story of the diffusion of transformative Indian ideas, first around Asia, then around the wider world. He clarifies that further, and let me just read what he says. For a millennium and a half, from about 250 BCE to 1200 CE, India was a confident exporter of its own diverse civilization, creating around it an empire of ideas which developed into a tangible Indosphere where its cultural influence was predominant. During this period, the rest of Asia was the willing and even eager recipient of a startlingly comprehensive mass transfer of Indian soft power in religion, art, music, dance, textiles, technology, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, mythology, language, and literature.
Which moves from the Mediterranean on the left, Alexandria, Tyre, Antioch, these classical names on the Mediterranean, and through a series of dotted lines moving horizontally across Asia, passes through Anatolia, through Persia, through Central Asia, and through China until arriving close to the China Sea. And as you can see with this map, it's all very well, but it completely omits India from the picture. India is a complete absence on this map. There's the Himalayas and then nothing else. Even the dotted line coming around the bottom, which is sometimes called the Maritime Silk Road, which is a new addition to these maps, just bypasses India. It goes between Sri Lanka and India, heads off, and finally arrives at its destination at Gaza, improbably. It's my contention in this book that as far as the classical period is concerned, this map is more or less a lie. It does not represent any sort of reality that reflects the patterns of trade of the classical period. Because the simple truth is that Rome and China were unaware of each other's existence. Vaguely, there are a couple of references in both directions to the possible existence of a vast power in the West or the East. But no direct trade mission is ever known to have gone from Rome to China or vice versa. No diplomatic contact was made. But at the same time that there was this absence of any actual classical connect between Rome and China, India and China from the 1st century were in close and regular contact. From the moment, if you remember in your literature classes, when Octavius defeats Antony Cleopatra. Cleopatra famously puts an asp to her breast, and Octavius, as Augustus, his imperial name, seizes Roman Egypt. From that moment, India and the Roman world have a border, because it's only 2 months sailing from here, from the Goan coast, or from Kerala, or from Gujarat, or from the mouth of the Indus in Sindh, to Berenike, or the ports of Roman Egypt. And propelled by the monsoon, sailors from the 1st century began making not just regular trips, but annual trips. Strabo, a Greek-Roman geographer based in Alexandria, talks of fleets of 250 vessels waiting in Myos Hormos, one of the main ports of the Red Sea, to go together in great fleets to India. And then India, with this extraordinary providence of having a monsoon which blows very fast in one direction for 6 months of the year, then reverses itself and blows back again, allowing sailors who've traveled from Goa or Kerala or Gujarat to Egypt to come back again, equally fast. This unique property of the winds has meant that India has always been a coastal nation with strong trading contacts, which is why today there are still great colonies of Goans in East Africa, in the Gulf, because the winds dictated it as such. And from the time of the Indus Valley, we have records of sailing expeditions going backwards and forwards. But these enormously accelerate at the time of the Roman Empire. Attention of Frederick II, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, who is a keen scholar and interested in maths and philosophical matters. And he takes Fibonacci and he introduces him, very importantly, Vidya, to a Scotsman, Michael Scott the Wizard. There's an important walk on parts of Scots in this story too, I'm glad to say. And Michael Scott, from my country, tells Fibonacci that it's all very well, this highfalutin theory that you've written, he says, it's not practical enough. And he encourages Fibonacci to write a second edition with double accounting, weights and measures, currency conversion, and so on. A book that could be used by merchants, trading, and this book becomes the Italian mathematical primer. It's used by the Medici when they're planning their bank, and it's the source, if you like, of, you could say, without stretching it too far, of the Medici banking fortunes. But more specifically, it's picked up by Renaissance painters such as Piero della Francesca, who was famous at the time as a mathematician. He writes 3 mathematical treatises, which his flatmate, Fra Luca Pacioli, takes to Milan and shares with his flatmate. The flatmate is Leonardo da Vinci.
Goa's verdant flora is God's gift, but its preservation is our responsibility. Eminent and popular agriculturist Miguel Bragança spoke to us.
Miguel, you this year will be here also speaking at the Gulf. Is this your first edition that you've ever been at, or have you been to the Gulf before?
I've participated, but this is the first time I'll be interacting on stage with the person who has authored the book.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about the book, because it is, I think, Goa's most loved fruit, Mangifera indica, also known as the mango.
Yes, mango is the people's fruit, and that's how it is called am, or in the local language, ambo.
Yeah.
It is of the people, and it's very much loved in India and across Southeast Asia. So this book brings about the varieties which are there, how grafting came about, the role of the Jesuits in bringing grafting so that we have the varieties here.
Okay.
The people's perception and the varieties which are popular in different parts of India. The north has a different choice from the south, and the east from the west.
Yes.
So this book deals with that, plus the personal memories of the author. Sopan Joshi writes about his own memories about mango.
Writers and teachers are eternal learners too. We spoke to one such professor at GALF this year.
You teach history.
Yes.
And, the arts, literature, history aren't really separate from each other. Many of them dovetail at various points along the journey of life. What's been your experience with the confluence of some of these areas?
Every art has a history behind it. Yeah. And if you deeply analyze the art, you come to know the history of that period, especially the sculptures. You will be like, okay, you visit a temple, you see the sculpture, just a sculpture. What kind of history can a sculpture tell us? Or the paintings in Ajanta, Ellora, they do tell us about the society, okay, the fashion of that period, okay, the way the people were, the kind of clothes they used to wear, fashion, plus the foreigners, if they were foreign visitors also, we come to know via the art. And that in depth, Professor Vidya Deja is to tell us via her visiting research professors series that Goa University is to organize.
The confluence of cultures continues with delegates coming from far and wide. Brian spoke to David Kaisa, visiting from East Africa.
Tell me, David, what made you cross the oceans to come to this little bit of India called Goa?
I think for me this journey was a very, very long time coming.
Yes.
Yes. If you are in East Africa, there's a bit of India inside you, culturally. So you could say this is my first time to India, but that is only a factual fact. But I think also it's categorically not entirely correct, because India is a big world. There's India, the geography, there's India, the ethos. And I think I knew about India, the ethos, for a long time. But also, as a writer, I've been very intent on trying to understand many of the cultural roots that I found that were not necessarily our own back home when I was growing up.
And where does Goa come in that? What is the Goa part? Because you're visiting India, but you're visiting Goa, which is slightly different from British Africa, right? Yeah.
Yes, I was just on the face of it. I was invited by the incomparable Vivek Menezes, who was in Kampala last year.
Yes.
But I had already embarked on writing about the coastal cities of the East African coastal cities.
Such as Mombasa?
Mombasa, I intend to go to Sofala, that is in Mozambique.
Yeah.
There is Lamu, there is Zanzibar,
yes.
There is Dar es Salaam, there is Tanga. There's quite a lot of them.
And some of these cities have links with Goa. For example, Zanzibar and the spice trade, Mombasa, of course.
But this is the thing, like a lot of these cities, they're incomplete without Goa. Because there is a Goa-shaped hole in that narrative, as long as you haven't been to Goa. And I think my instinct may perhaps bore me outright, because I came to Goa, and you have to do a double take to see you're not in Mombasa.
We're in conversation now with Sonia Rodriguez Sabarwal, who is the chosen artist at the 13th GALF. Sonia, thank you for speaking to us at Doordarshan Goa.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you been at GALF before?
Yes, I've been at GALF before as an attendee, as a speaker also once.
Okay.
So it was just yes, it's something very beautiful.
And what's different for you this year?
This year, because I'm very honored, because I've been selected as the Goan artist for the 13th edition, as I represent my work out here.
Okay. And as you can see, this is Sonia's creation. Sonia has behind her a vast oeuvre of art that aficionados and lovers of art have been enjoying for many years. Having trained in Bombay, Sonia now lives in Goa?
Yes, I live in Goa. I'm trained in Goa itself.
As well, okay.
Yes.
And so this is really a sort of homecoming and a reaching a realization of all that she's worked towards for these many years. Sonia, why don't you take us through what the art is first, please?
Yeah, the goddess of art and literature sits gracefully, holding a quill of peacock feathers poised in deep contemplation. This representation of the goddess is a metaphor for Kabir's bhajan, Jeeni Jeeni Re Bini Chadariya.
Do you have your
in this
here?
I have the earth is just the forms, the birds.
Okay.
I've used bubbles as the air.
Okay.
And then the leaves as air, and then the water elements are here.
Right. Okay. There's waves here.
Yeah, and we have the 8 chakras.
Okay.
Kabir Das also explains that we have the 8 chakras.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in this, he explains to us, he tells us that the 8 chakras are in the form of a lotus, where
Okay.
the nadis are woven.
Okay.
And we as bodies are created through that.
Okay.
And God has given us all this in a very innocent form.
Okay.
But it is how we represent and how we use our bodies.
Right.
Like God has given it to everybody, right from the rich to the poor.
Right.
It also depends like how whether you abuse it or you keep it clean.
Right.
But in this bhajan, Kabira, he also says that I myself, God has given me this cloth, and I myself have I return it back to him in the same way he has given it to me.
Unblemished.
Yes, unblemished.
Okay. And then that's the halo that you.
Yes, and
you
I've
talked
used a
about.
fire element. I've used the state flower of Goa,
The aboli.
the
Yeah.
aboli.
Yeah.
So that represents the fire element, and that surrounds her as a halo.
Okay. Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. There's art, there's literature, and there's all of the sensibility that brings it all together. But Sonia, you've also got text over here from the bhajan.
Yes, the text is, because it's a metaphor, I wanted to explain the work through the bhajan that is
Right.
written. So that's why I represented the whole bhajan. I've written it down
Okay.
out here.
Okay. And you have somebody very special that came all the way from.
Yes, I
Delhi
have
to-
a student of mine who's a very good singer, and she's going to sing the bhajan.
Okay. We have Apurva Khosla, a singer who's actually come to bring to life this embodiment of Sonia's work and representation towards the artwork for Gulf. Apurva Khosla, over to you.
Thank you so much, and this is especially for Sonia ma'am and the beautiful artwork that she's created. झीनी झीनी रे बीनी चदरिया काहे के ताना काहे के भरनी कौन तार से बीनी चदरिया इंगला पिंगला ताना भरनी सुख मन तार से बीनी चदरिया आठ का बलदल चरखा डोले पांच तत गुण तीनी चदरिया साई को सियत मास 10 लागो ठोक ठोक के बीनी चदरिया सो चादर सुर नरमोनी ओढ़ी ओढ़ के मैली कीनी चदरिया दास कबीर जतन से ओढ़ी जो कि त्यो धरी दीनी चदरिया झीनी झीनी बीनी चदरिया.
Goa's wealth of beautiful traditional homes has always been admired. When two talented artists come together to capture this on paper, the result is a coffee table book that would adorn any collection.
So what's special this year and what's different? You're here not just to partake, but to present this year, I understand, right? So tell us more about that.
So what's different on the whole is that it's much larger than it's ever been, I think, and we are very excited to be a part of it. Our book is titled The Memory Keepers and Future Seekers, and Portraits of Heritage Homes in Goa. And we've, with photographs by Ulka, who's an award-winning photographer, and text by me. I'm an art writer and curator. And it's portraits of 6 heritage homes in Goa. So we're really excited to be at a homegrown festival of art and literature and present our work.
Great. You've already, so tell us a little bit about the houses that you've actually covered.
So each of the homes featured in the book, there are 6 in total, spread across the north and south of Goa.
Okay.
And each of them are unique in terms that they are living and breathing. They are like the center stage on which, the routines and rituals of daily life continue to play out.
Right.
And that's kind of what the unique point of the book is.
So they're
in
living
that
homes in a sense.
They're living homes, and it's a documentary style exploration of life as it plays out within these homes.
Okay.
So with a lot of candid shots and the text features the memories of these families living in the homes.
And what was the thought process, or what was the inspiration behind you choosing this particular subject?
So I think the inspiration for me was having lived across 4 countries in 4 different continents, and then finally being locked down in my own ancestral home in Bombay during the pandemic.
Okay.
That had me kind of reflecting on my own sense of home, my own sense of belonging.
Okay.
And then I discovered, and it was a time when I was, reflecting on my photography practice as well.
Okay.
And being locked down at home, I happened to order a bunch of photo books. One of them was Prabhudas Das Gupta, the fine art and fashion photographer's Edge of Faith.
Okay.
And I was so moved by the portraits of Goan homes that it inspired me to, visit these homes and start my own kind of journey exploring them.
We have come to the end of the inaugural program of the 13th Goa Arts and Literature Festival. It was a packed audience at the International Centre Goa, and everyone had their fill of top-notch literature, poetry, and creative juices. Thank you.